He was a king, and she was his trophy. But in one night, in front of the entire world, he decided his trophy was obsolete. He demanded the ultimate humiliation, forcing his loyal wife to kneel before his new mistress. The cameras were flashing, the crowd was hushed, and the mistress was smirking, thinking she had won. But Michael Thorne forgot one crucial detail about his quiet, elegant wife. Still waters run deep, and sometimes the most silent person in the room holds the most devastating power. What happened next wasn't just a twist, it was an execution. The penthouse on the 72nd floor of 157 wasn't a home. It was a glass and marble declaration of war against gravity, and, Amelia Vance suspected, against basic human warmth. The air was always a sterile 68 degrees, and the floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of Central Park so perfect it looked like a high-definition screensaver. It was a cold, beautiful prison, and Michael Thorne was its warden. Amelia, his wife of 15 years, sat in the cavernous white living room, not on the $80,000 Minotti sofa, but on a stiff, antique chair she'd brought from her family's Boston home. It was the only piece of furniture in the 9,000-square-foot apartment that Michael hadn't picked out, and he hated it. "It's an eyesore, Amelia. It doesn't fit the aesthetic," he'd bellowed last week, fresh from a hostile takeover of a logistics firm. "Neither do I, Michael," she had replied, her voice too quiet for him to register as an insult. Today, Michael was a storm of expensive cologne and restless energy. Pacing in front of the windows, his phone seemingly fused to his ear. He was planning the annual Thorne Foundation Gala, an event less about charity and more about cementing his status as a New York Titan. Michael Thorne hadn't just earned his wealth, he'd willed it into existence, a fact he repeated in every Forbes interview. Amelia knew the truth. Michael hadn't willed his first million, he'd married it. The Vance name, old and respected, had opened doors that his raw, brutal ambition could only kick at. It was her family's seed money, a quiet infusion from the Vance endowment that had saved his first company, Thorne Capital, from total collapse a decade ago. It was a debt he repaid with escalating cruelty. "Yes, send the Dom Perignon, not the Cristal. I don't care about the cost, just do it," he barked into his phone. He clicked off, glared at the device, and immediately dialed another number, his thumb moving with practiced speed. His voice softened, became a slick, honeyed purr. "Chloe, Angel, yes. No, she's right here. Just reading, as usual." He smirked at Amelia, a predator's gesture. "I'll see you at 6. Wear the red. It makes you look dangerous." He hung up. Amelia didn't look up from her tablet. She was reviewing a document that had no place in this sterile apartment. It was a complex spreadsheet filled with routing numbers, offshore corporation names, Rosalind Holdings, Apex Global, Sterling Ventures, and dates. Dates that, damningly, corresponded exactly with Michael's business trips over the last 5 years. She had a name for this private file, the Sterling Audit. "You should get your hair done," Michael said, straightening the knot of his Zegna tie. "You look tired, Amelia." "Faded." "I'm fine, Michael. I was just confirming the guest list for the gala." "Leave that to the new PR team. Chloe's managing it." He bared his teeth in what he thought was a smile. "She's a real shark, that one. Young, hungry, exactly what this foundation needs." Amelia finally looked up. Her eyes, a placid, intelligent grey, met his. "A shark, Michael. Be careful. They're known for circling, and they're the only animal that can't swim backward. They only move forward. Or they die." Michael stared at her, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. He hated when she spoke in riddles. "Just go to that place you like. Bergdorf's. Buy a new face. The gala is in 3 days. and I want you to at least look the part." He grabbed his bespoke leather briefcase and was gone, the heavy steel and glass door closing with an expensive, sound-dampening thud. The silence that followed was heavy. Amelia counted to 60. Then she put down her tablet, walked to her antique chair, and pressed a small, hidden catch on its underside. A slim, leather-bound journal slid out. She opened it. It was full of handwritten notes, names and numbers. She picked up her own phone, a simple, nondescript model, and dialed a number from memory. "Mr. Harding," she said, her voice now clear and cold, all the faded quality gone. "It's Amelia Vance." "Yes, I'm well, thank you. I need to see you this afternoon. Bring the complete file on Rosalind Holdings." "Yes." "And Mr. Harding, I think it's time we contact your associates at the Post. We're moving to Phase 3. He's getting sloppy. He's getting arrogant. And he just hired a shark." She hung up, walked to the window, and looked down at the park. From this high up, the people looked like ants. Michael always said it made him feel powerful. It just made Amelia feel distant. "You're not the only one who can't swim backward, Michael," she whispered to the glass. "You just never thought I'd learn to swim at all." The new shark arrived at the penthouse the next morning, ostensibly for a final gala planning meeting. Chloe Sinclair was not a shark. She was a piranha, all teeth, all glitter, and drawn to the scent of blood, or in this case, the metallic tang of an Amex black card. She was 26, with hair the color of bottled fire and a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. She walked into the penthouse not as a guest, but as a conqueror, scanning the art-filled living room and finding it wanting. "Amelia, darling," she trilled, air-kissing the space 3 feet to the left of Amelia's head. "Michael has told me so much about you." She was already wearing red, a tight-sheath dress that screamed, "Inappropriate for 10 a.m. "Ms. Sinclair," Amelia replied, her voice perfectly even. "I'm sure he has. Coffee?" "Oh, just a green juice, with extra spirulina. Michael is having them delivered for me every morning." Chloe ran a possessive hand over the back of Michael's white leather chair at the head of the dining table. "We just have to go over the seating chart. Michael wants my input. He says I have a better feel for the new money crowd." For an hour, Amelia endured. Chloe vetoed the floral arrangements. "Lilies? So, funereal. We need birds of paradise, something with passion. The music? A string quartet? Are we 80? I'm getting the chain smokers." "And the guest list. Who are these people?" Chloe scoffed, pointing to a name. "Dr. Agnes Taylor, head of oncology at Mount Sinai." "She's the primary recipient of the Foundation's donations, Miss Sinclair. The Thorn Wing for pediatric cancer is her project," Amelia explained patiently. "Yeah, well, we need her at a table in the back. She's killing the vibe. I need to move the founders of Alpha Chain Crypto to Table 1. They're Michael's new partners." "They are not his partners," Amelia said, her voice dropping a fraction of a degree. "They are his targets. They are not to be seated anywhere near his personal table." Chloe's eyes narrowed. The glittering facade cracked. "Listen, Amelia, I don't know what game you think you're playing. You're the old guard, the relic. I'm the future. Michael and I, we connect on a primal level." "A primal level," Amelia repeated, as if tasting the word. "I see. Does this primal connection extend to understanding SEC regulations on pump-and-dump crypto schemes? Or are you just handling the passion?" Chloe's face went white, then a dangerous, blotchy red that clashed with her dress. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Hiding behind your old money and your big words. Michael is tired of it. He's tired of you." She stood up, and in a move of such calculated malice, she tripped sending her green, spirulina-filled juice an arc across the room. It landed squarely on the antique chair Amelia had brought from Boston, the fabric instantly soaking up the foul, green-black liquid. "Oh no!" Chloe gasped, her hands flying to her mouth in a perfect pantomime of shock. "Oh, your chair. It was an accident." Amelia looked at the green stain spreading across the priceless 18th century silk brocade. She looked at Chloe's smirking, triumphant eyes. She looked at the $80,000 sofa that was untouched. She didn't move. She didn't shout. She simply took a long, slow breath. "You're right," Amelia said, her voice terrifyingly calm. "It was an accident. You accidentally revealed exactly who you are." "And who is that?" Chloe taunted. "A stain," Amelia said, turning to walk away. "Easily removed, and ultimately replaceable." "Is that what you think?" Chloe's voice was a shriek. "Michael is leaving you. He's telling everyone at the gala. He's giving me the new penthouse. He said you'd be nothing without him." Amelia paused at the doorway, her back to the hysterical younger woman. "A common misconception, Ms. Sinclair. One you, Michael, and the IRS all seem to share. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a call to make. Please show yourself out, and do be careful with the elevator. It's a long way down." That afternoon, Amelia met Mr. Harding not at his Wall Street office, but at a discreet coffee shop in the West Village. He was a small, bird-like man in a rumpled suit, but he had the sharpest legal mind in New York. "He's moved $5.2 million to an unregistered account in the Caymans," Amelia said, handing him a slip of paper. "This is the account number. It's under CS Global, but I've traced the incorporation papers. They're in her name, Chloe Sinclair." Harding's eyes went wide. "Amelia, this is the smoking gun. This isn't just financial fraud, it's co-conspiracy. He's actively hiding assets from the corporation and from you. He's not just hiding them, he's flaunting them," Amelia said, stirring her black coffee. "He's buying her a penthouse. He's making her the face of his foundation." "The gala is tomorrow night," Harding said, his voice grim. "The feds are ready. The SEC has their injunction. All they need is a trigger. Are you sure you want to do this? At his own event?" Amelia looked out the window. A young couple walked by, laughing, holding hands. They looked poor and happy. "Michael is a narcissist, Mr. Harding. His greatest strength is his ego. It's also his greatest weakness. He needs an audience to feel alive. Tomorrow night, he'll have the biggest audience of his life. His new partners, his old money rivals, the press." She turned back, her grey eyes glinting like steel. "I'm not just going to divorce him, Mr. Harding. I'm going to dismantle him. I want him to have everything he's ever wanted, the spotlight, the attention, the power, all focused on him for one perfect moment, right before I take it all away. It's a high-risk play, Amelia. He's volatile. He's a bully," she corrected, "and the only way to deal with a bully is to break him, publicly and completely. Tell your friends at the FBI to be ready. Tell the receivers to be on standby, and tell the Post to send their best photographer. They won't want to miss the show." The night of the Thorne Foundation Gala arrived on a wave of cold November air and the frantic flashing of paparazzi bulbs. The Plaza Hotel ballroom had been transformed into a gaudy, vaguely Roman-themed nightmare. All gold columns and white draping, a reflection of Michael's new imperial phase. Chloe had, apparently, overruled the string quartet. A heavy, pulsing electronic beat vibrated through the marble floors. Michael stood at the entrance, preening in a custom Tom Ford tuxedo, and on his arm, in a blindingly bright red dress that was cut down to her navel and slit up to her hip, was Chloe Sinclair. She was not introduced as head of PR. My goddess! Michael was booming to a reporter from Vanity Fair. The future Mrs. Thorne, the inspiration for this new era. And then Amelia arrived. She didn't make a grand entrance. She didn't have to. She simply appeared. She wore a simple, sleeveless, midnight blue gown by a designer so exclusive he didn't have a label. It was the color of a deep ocean, a stark, elegant contrast to the room's garish gold. Her only jewelry was a pair of diamond and sapphire earrings, the Vance sapphires, which had been in her family for a century. She was not a goddess. She was a queen, and the room for a moment seemed to remember the difference. The new money crowd buzzed around Chloe, but the old money, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the families who measured wealth in generations, not quarters, gravitated to Amelia. They spoke in low, respectful tones. "Amelia, you look wonderful. How is your mother's foundation, dear? That blue is magnificent." Michael watched this, his face darkening. He hated her for this, for the one thing he couldn't buy, bully, or take over, her legacy. He stalked over, grabbing her arm. "What do you think you're doing?" he hissed, his fingers digging into her elbow. "You're supposed to be in the background. You're making Chloe uncomfortable." "Am I?" Amelia asked, not bothering to look at Chloe, who was glaring at them from across the room. "She seems quite buoyant." "Stop it. Stop being you. It's over, Amelia. Tonight is the launch of my new life, and you have a choice. You can sign the papers I had drawn up, a full, silent waiver of all assets, and you can walk away with your legacy, or you can fight me, and I will drag the Vance name through so much mud your ancestors will spin in their graves." He thought it was an ultimatum. He didn't know it was a confession. "The papers," Amelia said calmly. "Where are they?" Michael was taken aback. He'd expected a fight. In my breast pocket. My lawyer, Mr. Silver, is right over there. We can sign it in the back room, right now." "No," Amelia said, pulling her arm free. "Not now. You're about to give your speech, Michael. You love the spotlight. Don't let me." She paused, a tiny cold smile touching her lips. "Detain you." She turned and walked toward the stage, taking a seat at the main table, table 1, right next to the empty seat reserved for the guest of honor. Michael watched her, baffled and furious. He had expected tears. He had expected weakness. He had not expected nothing. This cold, placid indifference was the one weapon he couldn't fight. He stormed to the bar and grabbed a glass of champagne, downing it in one gulp. Chloe slithered up to him. "She's trying to upstage me, Marky," she pouted, adjusting the slit of her dress. "That dress. It's so boring." "It's not the dress, it's her," Michael snarled. "She thinks she's better than us. She thinks she can just sit there while I change the world. While we change the world." He slammed the glass down. "You know what? She's right. It is over. But it's not going to be a quiet signing in the back room. The world is changing, and I'm going to be the one to announce it." A new, terrible idea was forming in his mind. A way to finally break her. To shatter that composure and show everyone, once and for all, who held the power. "Chloe," he said, a slow, venomous smile spreading across his face. "How do you feel about a little public theatre? I think it's time we showed this queen what happens when she's been deposed." Chloe's eyes lit up. "Oh, Marky, I love it. What do I do?" "Just stand next to me," he said, grabbing her hand and pulling her toward the stage. "And look like you've already won." He grabbed the microphone from the shocked MC. Thank you," he boomed, though no one was clapping. Friends, partners, future, billionaires. The room quieted. The music stopped. A single spotlight hit Michael Thorne. He was exactly where he always wanted to be. We are here tonight to celebrate the future, the Thorne Foundation. But a foundation is only as strong as its, well, foundation. And for 15 years, my foundation has been cracked. It's been cold. It's been old. A murmur went through the crowd. This was not the standard charity speech. Amelia sat at table 1, perfectly still, watching him. She looked like a marble statue. But tonight, that changes, Michael bellowed. Tonight, I am announcing a new foundation, a new partnership, a new life. He yanked Chloe onto the stage with him. She posed, blowing a kiss to the baffled crypto founders. This, he said, is Chloe Sinclair. She is my inspiration. She is my future. And she is the real force behind Thorne Capital. A few people clapped, confused. But first, Michael said, his voice dropping, we have to take out the trash. He turned, his eyes locking on Amelia. He walked off the stage, the spotlight following him, and stopped directly in front of his wife. The entire ballroom, hundreds of New York's most powerful people, was silent. Amelia, he said, his voice dripping with condescending pity, you've been a placeholder, a relic. But you've lived in my house. You've spent my money, for a decade and a half. And you've done nothing. You've been a burden. He leaned in, his voice a grotesque whisper that the microphone picked up and amplified. And now I'm with a real woman, a goddess. And I think you owe her an apology. The silence in the room was no longer polite. It was horrified. What did you say, Michael? Amelia's voice was quiet, but clear. You heard me, he sneered, feeding off the crowd's shock. Chloe is the new lady of the house, and you will show her respect. You will apologize to her for being in the way. Apologize, Amelia repeated. Yes, apologize, and I want you to kneel. A collective, audible gasp. This was no longer a speech. It was a public execution. Kneel. Yes, kneel. Michael was high on his own power, his face red. Kneel before your replacement. Show everyone right now that you know your place, that you are nothing. Chloe on the stage covered her mouth in fake surprise, but her eyes were glittering with triumph. This was better than she could have imagined. Michael grabbed Amelia's arm, trying to yank her from the chair. Kneel, you old... Mr. Thorne. The voice was not Amelia's. It was loud, flat, and amplified by the ballroom's side entrance. Michael froze. The entire room turned. The main doors of the ballroom, which had been closed, swung open. Standing there were not hotel staff, but 2 men in dark, identical, ill-fitting suits, and another man in a rumpled trench coat, holding a badge. What happens next? Amelia whispered, so low only Michael could hear, is the part you didn't plan for. The room was so quiet you could hear the ice melting in the glasses, and what happened next silenced the room. The man in the trench coat, Agent Peterson, took 2 steps into the room. He didn't seem to notice the gold columns or the baffled crypto-billionaires. He only had eyes for the man holding the microphone. Michael Thorne? Agent Peterson's voice needed no amplification. It cut through the silence like a surgeon's scalpel. Michael, his hand still on Amelia's arm, his face locked in a mask of rage and confusion, could only stammer. Who are you? This is a private event. Get out! I'm Agent Peterson, FBI, White Collar Crime Division. The badge was held up, glinting in the spotlight that had, only a second before, been Michael's weapon. And this event is now a federal crime scene. A wave of sound rippled through the room. Gasps, whispers, the scrape of a chair, the click, click, click of a post-photographer's camera. Crime scene? Michael blustered, finally letting go of Amelia's arm. This is absurd. It's a mistake. It's her. He pointed a shaking finger at Amelia. She did this. She's hysterical. She's... Mr. Thorne, you are under arrest, Peterson said, advancing. The two other agents flanked him. You are being charged with 3 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of securities fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. This is impossible, Michael shrieked, backing away. Is it? A new voice, dry and precise, joined the fray. Mr. Harding, Amelia's rumpled lawyer, stepped out from behind the agents. He was holding a thick stack of documents. Mr. Thorne, Harding said, I'd also like to introduce Mr. Davies of the U.S. Bankruptcy Court. He has been appointed the official receiver for Thorne Capital. A second man, in a crisp suit, stepped forward. As of 6:15 p.m. this evening, all assets of Thorne Capital and all personal assets of Michael Thorne have been frozen, pending a full audit and investigation. The blood drained from Michael's face. He looked small. The custom-fit tuxedo suddenly seemed 2 sizes too big. My assets? He whispered. No, the crypto. The Alpha Chain. The Alpha Chain partners you were courting, Mr. Thorne, Agent Peterson said, almost conversationally. They are also in federal custody. It seems your pump-and-dump scheme was a little too obvious, especially when your wife provided us with the entire blueprint. All eyes, horrified, pitying, and schadenfreude-filled, swung to Amelia. She had not moved. She had not flinched. She simply sat there, a queen on her throne, watching the empire collapse. Michael turned to her. The hatred in his eyes was so pure, so potent, it was almost a physical force. You, he breathed. You, bitch. You did this. You. He lunged at her. He never made it. The 2 agents were on him in a second, twisting his arms behind his back with a practiced, brutal efficiency. The sound of high-end bespoke fabric ripping was followed by the sharp, metallic click of handcuffs. Michael! The shriek came from the stage. Chloe Sinclair, the goddess, the future Mrs. Thorne, looked like she had seen a ghost. Marky, tell them it's a lie. Tell them. Ms. Sinclair, Agent Peterson said, not even turning around. Chloe Sinclair? Yes? You're under arrest, too. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud. It seems the $5.2 million Mr. Thorne wired to your personal account in the Caymans this morning was, in fact, stolen from his investors. It was a gift, Chloe stammered, as the first agent started leading Michael, now white-faced and trembling, toward the door. A bonus for my PR work. I'm sure it was, Peterson said. A female officer, who had entered unnoticed, was now walking onto the stage. You'll have plenty of time to explain your PR duties downtown. No, you can't, Chloe shrieked, backing away. My dress, it's couture. The officer didn't blink, simply grabbed her wrist. The goddess was cuffed. The room was absolutely, profoundly silent. The only sound was Michael, who had stopped struggling, his entire body rigid. He was staring at Amelia. Why? He whispered, his voice broken. I gave you everything. Amelia Vance finally stood. The spotlight which had been chasing Michael found her. She seemed to radiate a cold blue light. She smoothed the front of her gown, walked past the FBI agents, and stood directly in front of her husband. She did not slap him. She did not raise her voice. She simply leaned in close, her face inches from his, and said, You asked me to kneel, Michael. You demanded I apologize. She paused, holding his gaze. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't do this 5 years ago. And as for kneeling, she looked down at his cuffed hands. She looked at the federal agents holding him. She looked at the ruins of his life, laid bare in a ballroom he had paid for with stolen money. It appears, she said, her voice clear and carrying across the silent room, that you're the one who has been brought to your knees. Not me. She stepped back. Agent Peterson. He's all yours. As Michael Thorne was dragged, speechless, from the ballroom, and a weeping Chloe Sinclair was led off the stage, Amelia Vance turned to the stunned crowd. She picked up the microphone Michael had dropped. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice ringing with an authority no one had ever heard from her. "My apologies for the interruption. It appears the Thorne Foundation is under new management, effective immediately." She looked at Dr. Agnes Taylor, the oncologist, who was sitting stunned at a back table. "Dr. Taylor," Amelia called out, "I believe we have a pediatric cancer wing to fund. Please come join me at this table. We have a lot to discuss." The silence was broken, not by gasps, but by a single, slow clap. Then another, and another. Within 10 seconds, the entire room, the old money, the new money, the press, was giving Amelia Vance a standing ovation. The days that followed were a media hurricane. "Titan in chains!" screamed the Post. "Throne of lies," declared the Daily News. The Gala Gavel, how one woman brought down Wall Street's biggest bully. But Amelia was nowhere to be found. She had vanished from the penthouse, leaving behind the green-stained chair, the $80,000 sofas, and a life she'd never wanted. She was in Mr. Harding's decidedly non-flashy office on a lower Manhattan side street, sipping tea. The office was filled with books, not art, and the only view was of a brick wall. Amelia had never felt more at home. "They've offered him a plea deal," Harding said, peering at her over his glasses. 15 years, if he flips on his partners in Singapore and testifies against Ms. Sinclair. "He'll take it," Amelia said, not looking up from the document she was signing. "Michael is a bully, but he's also a coward. He'll throw Chloe under the bus to save himself 3 years. He already has. Her bail was denied. Her defense is, 'I was in love.' She was in love with his bank account, a common, and in her case, indictable, disease." Amelia signed the last page with a flourish. "There, the Vance Endowment. It's now officially chartered as the Vance Taylor Foundation for Pediatric Research." Harding smiled. "You've endowed it with the full amount seized from the frozen assets." "My assets, Mr. Harding. Let's be clear. The money he stole." This was the part the media didn't know. The twist within the twist. Harding picked up a different file. This one was old, the manila folder soft and faded. "The Sterling audit," he said. "I've reviewed it a dozen times. Amelia, it's a masterpiece of forensic accounting. You missed nothing. How did you know?" Amelia finally looked up. Her grey eyes were no longer cold. They were sad. "I didn't at first," she said. "For the first 5 years, I thought he was just difficult, arrogant. I thought he resented me for my family's money, for saving him." She took a sip of tea. "Then, on our 10th anniversary, he was drunk, triumphant. He'd just closed a massive deal, the one that put him on the Forbes list. He toasted. To Arthur Vance, the old fool." "Your father," Harding said softly. "My father, who died of a heart attack when his company, Sterling Ventures, went bankrupt 20 years ago. A bankruptcy that happened mysteriously. A hostile takeover from an unknown offshore entity." Harding's eyes widened. "Rosalind Holdings." Rosalind Holdings, Amelia confirmed, named for his mother. Michael, he didn't just marry my family's money, Mr. Harding. He stole it. He built his entire empire on the ruins of my father's life. He bankrupted my family, and then he married me to gain the legitimacy of the Vance name, all while he was secretly, systematically, siphoning the last of the Vance endowment into his own pockets. The silence in the small office was profound. He told me, she whispered, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek, the first she had shed. He told me he married me because he wanted to own the last thing the Vances had left. He thought it was a compliment. My God, Harding breathed. I found the first clue 5 years ago, Amelia continued, composing herself. A stray transfer slip, Sterling. Why would he name a file Sterling? It was his first mistake. His ego. He needed the reminder. From there, I just followed the money. I learned to code. I learned forensic accounting. I took online classes. He thought I was faded, reading. He thought I was shopping. I was hunting. This wasn't a divorce, Amelia, Harding said, looking at her with a new, profound respect. This was a reclamation. He took my father's company, my father's money, and my father's name, she said, her voice hard as steel. I wasn't just informing the FBI. I was balancing the ledger. It wasn't just about his fraud. It was about all his sins. And Chloe? A pawn. A stupid, greedy girl he used to try and humiliate me. She was the final straw. When he demanded I kneel, Amelia's eyes flashed. He didn't just demand my humiliation. He was demanding the humiliation of my father's memory. I was happy to let the FBI step in at that exact moment. He deserved an audience for his downfall. He'd worked so hard to get one. She stood up, smoothing her simple, dark dress. The penthouse? Harding asked. Liquidate it. All of it. The ugly sofas, the art, the cars. Sell it all and put the money into the foundation. Except... She paused. Except what? The antique chair. The one Ms. Sinclair so helpfully redecorated. Send it to my new apartment. But it's ruined. It's not ruined, Mr. Harding, Amelia said, a small smile playing on her lips. It's a reminder that stains can be cleaned, and that even the oldest, most faded things can have a strength you never saw coming. While Michael Thorne's world shrank to an 8 by 10-foot cell, and Chloe Sinclair's to a 6-person holding pen, Amelia's world began to expand. The first month was about the unbecoming. She was unbecoming Mrs. Michael Thorne. She moved into a beautiful, but not ostentatious, pre-war apartment on the west side. It had bookshelves instead of glass walls, and warm wooden floors instead of cold marble. She bought a dog, a scruffy rescue mutt she named Sterling. She sat for one, and only one, interview. It was with the Vanity Fair reporter who had been at the gala. The reporter had expected a woman scorned. She found a CEO. Mrs. Vance, or do you prefer Ms. Vance? Amelia is fine. Amelia, your ex-husband's trial, the trial of the Titan. Do you have any comment on his 18-year sentence? I believe the justice system, while imperfect, arrived at a fair and logical conclusion based on the evidence presented, much of which I provided. And Chloe Sinclair? 5 years. The mistress of misery. Ms. Sinclair's greed was a liability. She was a co-conspirator who believed she was a partner. A common mistake. I wish her a period of reflection. The press has painted this as a revenge story. A woman betrayed. Is that how you see it? Amelia leaned forward. Revenge is a hot, messy emotion. It's what Michael wanted. He wanted me to scream, to cry, to throw a $20,000 vase. I don't deal in hot, I deal in cold. What I executed was not revenge, it was restitution. It was a corporate restructuring of a life built on fraudulent grounds. Michael Thorne was a bad investment. I corrected the market. The article, when it came out, didn't have a picture of a victim. It had a picture of Amelia, smiling, in a lab coat, standing next to Dr. Taylor in the newly opened, state-of-the-art Vance Taylor wing at Mount Sinai. But the unbecoming wasn't without its ghosts. One afternoon, sorting through the last boxes from her old life, she found a letter. It was from Michael, sent from prison via his lawyer. Against Mr. Harding's advice, she opened it. It was not an apology. It was 6 pages of single-spaced, handwritten venom. He called her a viper, a bloodless snake, a relic, a nothing. He blamed her for everything, for his failure, for his arrest, for the bad food. "You loved watching me fall," he wrote. "You always wanted this. You were jealous of my success." Amelia read the entire pathetic letter. She read it as sterling, her mutt snored at her feet. She didn't burn it. She didn't rip it up. She took out a red pen. She calmly went through, circling the 23 spelling errors, the 14 grammatical mistakes, and the 7 logical fallacies. At the top, she wrote, "See me after class." She mailed it back to the prison. She never heard from Michael Thorne again. As for Chloe, she tried to sell her story from prison. My Nights with the Titan. No one bought it. The 15 minutes of fame she had so desperately craved had turned into 5 years of hard time. Upon her release, she was deported. Her global holdings, as it turned out, were as fake as her love for Michael. Amelia's only other ghost was the chair. It sat in her new study, the green stain still faded, but visible on the silk. It was, as she'd said, a reminder. One day, Mr. Harding came to visit, bringing by the final dissolution papers. "You really kept it," he said, touching the stained fabric. "I did," Amelia said, pouring them both a brandy. "Why? Surely you can have it restored." "Oh, I could," Amelia said, handing him a glass. "But I like it. It reminds me that some things look fragile, but are strong enough to withstand even the most toxic spills." Harding raised his glass. To foundations," Amelia said, her eyes bright. "The real kind, the ones that last." 1 year to the day. The Plaza Hotel ballroom was, once again, the most sought-after invitation in New York. But the room, and the city's reason for being there, was unrecognizable. The date was the only thing that remained the same. The very air in the room was different. A year ago, it had been thick with heavy, thumping electronic music, the scent of expensive but cloying perfume, and the electric, predatory tension of a Wall Street trading floor. Tonight, the air was light. A string quartet, a real one, Amelia had insisted, played Bach in a corner. The lighting was not the gaudy, Roman gold uplighting of Michael's ego, but a soft, elegant glow in deep sapphire and silver, colors that became known in foundation circles as Vance Taylor blue. The scent was a clean, subtle mix of fresh lilies, the funereal flowers Chloe had despised, and the aroma of a world-class dinner. The guests were different, too. The Alpha Chain crypto founders were, by now, halfway through their own prison sentences. The influencers and new money sharks were absent, having found a new, gaudy titan to circle. Tonight, the tables were filled with doctors in unassuming suits, Nobel laureate researchers with ink stains on their cuffs, Pulitzer-winning journalists, old money philanthropists who had once pitied Amelia, and, most importantly, families. Families who had, in the past year, been given a priceless gift by the work being done in this room. Time. Amelia Vance stood near the entrance, not as a spectator, but as the host, the gravitational center of the room. She was not in the midnight blue armor she had worn to her own war. She was in a sleeveless, floor-length gown of liquid silver, a dress that caught the light and seemed to turn it into warmth. Her hair was down, and her only jewelry was a simple, elegant pearl necklace. She was not a queen. She was not a relic. She was, simply, Amelia. Mr. Harding, now on the Foundation's board, came up to her, holding 2 glasses of champagne. He looked entirely out of place in his rumpled suit, and entirely blissfully happy. "I must say, Amelia," he said, handing her a glass, "I never expected to be back here." "Neither did I, Mr. Harding," she smiled. "But I couldn't let him have the last memory in this room. We're overwriting the file." "It's warm," Harding said, looking around at the genuine laughter, the impassioned conversations. His version was so cold. "It's real, Mr. Harding," Amelia said, touching his arm. "That's the difference." "To Foundations, then," he said, raising his glass. "The real kind," she replied, and they clinked. As Harding moved off to talk to a senator, a couple approached Amelia. They were young, their clothes nice but not designer. The woman's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Miss Vance," the man said, his voice thick. We're the Wards, our son, Leo." Amelia's smile transformed. It lost all its hostess quality and became something personal, something present. "Mr. and Mrs. Ward. How is he?" He's in remission," the woman burst out, a tear finally escaping and running down her cheek. "The new CAR-T trial, the one you funded. Dr. Taylor said he was a perfect candidate. He's in his room right now, at the housing wing, probably breaking the rules about screen time." The man grabbed Amelia's hand, his grip tight and shaking. We were sleeping on a cot in the hallway. We were about to lose our house. Your Foundation, the pediatric wing. You didn't just give us our son back, Miss Vance. You gave us everything." Amelia felt her own eyes sting. This was the why. This was the answer to the hollow, aching, cold years in the penthouse. She gently freed her hand and placed it on the woman's arm. "It was Dr. Taylor's work, Mrs. Ward. I just balanced the books so she could do it." "No," the woman said, shaking her head, her voice fierce. "Dr. Taylor saved his body. You saved our family. You are a part of our family now." "Thank you," Amelia whispered, her voice catching. "Now please go enjoy your dinner, and tell Leo I said, game on." The couple moved away, looking dazed and grateful. Amelia took a steadying breath, the silver of her dress rising and falling. She felt a presence at her side. It was Dr. Agnes Taylor, looking sharp and uncomfortable in a dark velvet suit. "You okay?" Agnes asked, her eyes following the Wards. "More than," Amelia replied. "You're on, Agnes. Are you okay?" "I face down death, disease, and multisyllabic pharmaceutical names every day, Amelia," Agnes grumbled, adjusting her glasses. "But public speaking? That scares me." "You'll be brilliant. Just tell them the truth. It's what this whole night is about." "Right. The truth." Agnes gave her a small, rare smile. "Wish me luck." Amelia watched as her friend, her partner, walked to the stage. The room quieted instantly. Agnes tapped the microphone. "This thing on? Good. I'm a doctor, not a public speaker, so I'll keep this brief. A year ago, my pediatric oncology wing was a line-item budget proposal. It was a nice-to-have that was perpetually underfunded. We had the talent, but not the tools. We were A rounding error. She looked out at the crowd. Tonight, I can announce that the Vance Taylor wing has been operational for 9 months. We have, as of this morning, enrolled our 50th patient in 3 separate, fully funded clinical trials. Our patient family housing is at 100% capacity, and we've just broken ground on a second building. We are saving lives. The applause was heartfelt. Agnes held up a hand. Thank you. But I am not the person you should be clapping for. This was all made possible by one person. And I'm not talking about a wealthy patron who wrote a check and walked away. I'm talking about a partner. She turned, her eyes finding Amelia in the crowd. The press, in their infinite wisdom, have tried to paint Amelia Vance as a woman scorned, or a viper, or a victim. They are, as usual, lazy and wrong on all counts. The woman I know is not a socialite. The woman I know is the most brilliant, meticulous, and ruthless forensic accountant I have ever met. A ripple of surprised laughter went through the room. She didn't just donate money. She reclaimed it. She walked into my office not with a checkbook, but with a stack of binders. She had audited, by herself, a decade of complex international fraud. She knew, to the penny, what was stolen, where it was, and how to get it back. She didn't just fund this foundation, she built it. From the ruins of something false, she built something true. Agnes's voice, usually so clinical, was now ringing with passion. The world wants to talk about her marriage. I want to talk about her math. The world wants to call her a survivor. I call her our founder. Ladies and gentlemen, my partner, my friend, Amelia Vance. The applause was thunderous. It was not the schadenfreude-filled, shocked applause of a year ago. It was a deep, rolling, earned ovation. Amelia walked to the stage, stood at the podium, and looked out. This was the exact spot, the exact patch of carpet where Michael had stood, high on his own venom, the exact spotlight that had been intended to burn her to ashes. She felt a flicker of that night, the cold, the dread, the utter, suffocating humiliation of his voice. Kneel. She took a long, slow breath, the light on her silver dress. He built a stage to perform on, she thought. I built a hospital wing. We are not the same. The ghost vanished. The room was just a room. The people were just people. And she was, finally, just Amelia. Thank you, Agnes, she began, her voice warm, sure, and amplified, filling the room. She's right, you know. She's the brilliant doctor. I'm just the accountant. The room laughed with her. A year ago, in this very ballroom, a different kind of event took place. A hush fell. They were all leaning in. It was a night of theatre, a performance. It was loud, it was bright, and it was hollow. It was a party built on a foundation of sand, destined to be washed away by the first tide. I was a part of that, she continued, her voice clear. I lived a life that was all surfaces. I was quiet. I was faded, I believe was the term. A few people who had been at the first gala shifted in their seats. I think, for a very long time, I mistook my own silence for weakness. I know many other people did. But I have learned that silence isn't weakness. Silence is potential. It's the space where you can listen, where you can watch, where you can learn. It's the moment before the action, and when you are silent for 15 years, you learn a great deal. My father, Arthur Vance, had a saying, she said, her voice softening. He told me, Amelia, you can build something a mile high, or you can build it a mile deep. The mile-high structure is what everyone sees. It's impressive. It's all glass and steel, and it catches the sun. It casts a long, impressive shadow. But it's vulnerable. It's mostly just air. And it's built to be seen, not to last. "Michael Thorne," she said, and the name, spoken for the first time, landed with a dead, final thud. He built a mile high, and we all saw what happens when a little wind blows. A mile-deep foundation. You never see it. It's the hard part. It's the calculations, the concrete, the rebar. It's the truth that holds everything else up. It's boring and unglamorous, and it's the only part that matters. It's what lasts. She looked at Dr. Taylor. The work Agnes does, the work the wards and 49 other families are a part of, that is mile-deep work. What we are doing here tonight, all of us, is not a performance. It is not a party for our own egos. This is the real foundation. This is the shelter from the storm. This is the cure. This is the future. I was challenged in this room to know my place. I'm happy to report that after a year, I finally found it. It is not at a table in the back, and it is not on a stage. It is with all of you. Building. Thank you. She finished, and for the second time in this room, there was silence. But it was not horror, and it was not shock. It was a profound, shared respect. And then the applause began, and it was a storm. Later, as the evening was winding down, Amelia was standing by the dessert table, in deep discussion with Dr. Taylor about a new protein folding algorithm. A young reporter, new on the beat, her eyes wide, approached her. "Miss Vance? Amazing speech. That was raw. I just have one question. I know you've moved on, but don't you think, on some level, this," the reporter gestured to the successful, brilliant, warm room, "is all just the best revenge?" Amelia looked at the young woman. She didn't sigh. She didn't roll her eyes. She just smiled, a small, patient smile, and picked up a chocolate-covered strawberry. "Revenge, dear," she said, "is a hot, messy, short-sighted emotion. It's what Michael wanted. He wanted a fight. I gave him an audit. Revenge is about passion. What I did was about math. It's a very different animal." She gestured to the room. This is not revenge. This is restitution. This is the portfolio being rebalanced to its correct, original state. This is just what was supposed to be. The reporter, scribbling furiously, nodded. Okay, and just one more question then. The media, we've called you a victim, a survivor, a Titan slayer. After all this, how do you see yourself? Are you a survivor? This was the final beat. Amelia paused. She looked past the reporter, across the room. She saw Mr. Harding, laughing with a Supreme Court justice. She saw the Ward family, sharing a slice of cheesecake, the husband's arm around his wife. She saw Dr. Taylor in a corner, arguing animatedly with a Nobel laureate, her hands flying. "A survivor," Amelia said, tasting the word. "That's an interesting choice. A survivor is someone who is defined by what happened to them. They're looking backward. Their story is over. They're just trying to get through the day." She turned, her silver-gowned figure catching the light, and her grey eyes, once so cold, were now bright. She gave the reporter a full, genuine smile. "I'm not getting through anymore." She took a bite of the strawberry, a perfect, final punctuation. "I'm getting started." And just like that, Amelia Vance proved that the most powerful person in the room isn't the one with the loudest voice, but the one with the best laid plans. She didn't just get divorced. She delivered justice. She didn't just survive. She thrived. What do you think of Amelia's ultimate move? Was it cold-blooded revenge or perfect, calculated justice? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. So many people, women and men, are trapped in situations where they feel powerless, like a relic in their own lives. If this story touched you or reminded you of your own strength, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And of course, subscribe to our channel for more stories of karma, twists, and justice being served. Until next time, remember, never underestimate the quiet one.